Well, good evening, everyone. Michael Soothing here, with you today with what will probably be a very long, sleep-inducing video, a public service message explaining how you, yes, you, can avoid being the victim of scammers in the international dating scene, and also to a lesser degree in the domestic dating scene with online internet sites. I'm going to focus primarily today on the international dating scene, but I'll talk a little bit about I don't want you to be the victim of a scam. I don't want you to be victimized by a scammer. I don't want you to be scammed, okay? So that's why we're talking about this. And maybe it's not you looking for love. Maybe it's a friend or a coworker or a family member, right? What happens is we completely lose our minds when it comes to the subject of love and the opposite gender or sex, if there is such a thing anymore. All right, so for example, do you see this kind of sorry looking dude laying back on a bench in a public airport? This is a Dutch man, a guy from the Netherlands, who was looking for love, and he thought he had found it with this Chinese girl, this girl from China, whose name is Zhang, 26 years old. I believe he's 41, yes. Alexander Pieter Turk. And he flew all the way from the Netherlands to China because he thought that he and his online girlfriend had this great romance going. So he spent thousands of dollars, flew there to meet her, and ended up staying 10 days waiting in the Chiang Chau airport after she failed to show up. Now that is not an unusual story. That is typical of many situations that are similar. And it doesn't just happen with guys looking for women. It happens frequently in the reverse as well when it comes to online scams in the area of romance. But usually it involves sending sums of money, small at first, and then increasing in size as time goes on. Anyway, this guy ended up there. He ended up hospitalized. Well, here's a really pathetic picture of how he looked after 10 days without his diabetic medication, without proper food, dehydrated and bedrazzled. Now he's being wheeled away, taken to a hospital. Foreign man went to Changsha to meet his online girlfriend. Okay, so anyway, you maybe remember that story from the news or the internet. Now I'm not down on all cross-cultural, cross-racial, cross-international boundary dating, obviously, because I married a Filipina, as you know. And so, in the not distant past, just a couple years ago. So I'm going to tell you at the end of this video how Joanne and I met, why we were not victims, and why we could be secure in the knowledge of our relationship meeting online. How our LDR long distance romance worked. More on that later, towards the end of the video. First, I want to tell you, I've been doing a study for years in the realm of scams. Various types, but dating scams in particular caught my interest because of those I know who have been victimized. I was focusing at first on the Philippines because Joanne was from there, but I never doubted her. I started looking into it later when I was studying up on the Philippines itself. And of course, there are many, many successful romances between Westerners and Filipinas, so that's not so prevalent. I won't dwell on that much. Most of the dating scams in these days involve Eastern Europe, Russia, Ukraine, some Latin America. And again, I'm not labeling all of it or everyone as a scammer, but I'm going to give you the signs of how you will know for certain if you're being scammed. And if you don't see any of the signs and you get through level 1, then maybe you're developing a real relationship. So I just want you to know that that person, if you're hungry for love, that person who contacts you with warm, affectionate words about your profile and quickly starts mirroring your interests, like, oh, are you a divorcee? So am I. We have something in common. Oh, they'll often mirror whatever it is you say. That's one of 100 techniques to get their hooks into you if they're a scammer. Form a common bond. But, that person who contacts you in particular, when you're on a dating website, can very likely be a scammer if they show any of the red flag issues. And I'm going to tell you what those are before we move on to how you could progress with a real relationship. Like if you did find someone who's genuine, how do you bring them, say, to the USA? I think similar processes are in place for the UK or Australia or some of the other countries where there's often specific dating sites set up for, Eastern Europe, for example, and those places. Let's start with how to avoid the scams. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a list of things, first of all, that are big red flags. I made notes because there's too much for me to remember since I have a little bit of chemo brain right now. All right. If any of the following are true, and when I say any, I mean any, A-N-Y, any of these are true, then you're being scammed, okay? First, the person that you meet online is at first emailing you or perhaps possibly messaging you through the site, the dating site, but they don't, even after they establish some rapport with you and express, how they think you might be compatible, and they're feeling warm, fuzzy feelings towards you, they do not want to do FaceTime, webcam, video chat, or Skype with you, okay? After they've expressed a strong interest in you, if they don't want to do that, they're a scammer. They're definitely 100% a scammer. I don't care if they give you excuses like, oh, I don't have a good enough iPhone, I have an old computer. I have to go to the post office or Kinko's just to send you an email. I need a smartphone. All those are ploys to avoid face-to-face contact, number one. And number two, maybe ploys to get you to send money so they can get a proper computer, smartphone, etc. I guarantee you, if they're accessing you through an internet website, they already have a smartphone and the capability and a computer, okay? So that's red flag number one. They don't want to FaceTime or Skype. I used to know a guy at work who called it Skypey, right? He would say Skypey, which I thought was rather amusing. Okay. Number two, they tell you that they have to go to government offices or a computer bar or a library or something like that to correspond with you. That's why there will be delays in their correspondence, and they can't do it, and they can't send real-time photos or web chat, okay? That's a scam. They have access to the internet. Even the people in the provinces in Eastern Europe these days, if they're coming to you through a dating website or any website, I guarantee you they have either a smartphone or a good computer, good enough to handle real-time chat, okay? So that means they are this scammer, okay? Don't have any illusions or delusions. See, here's the thing. We want to, if you go to the internet looking for love, you're talking to someone you have no idea who's on the other end. So somebody sends you all this flowery information about themselves. They give you lots of details about themselves to form a bond. What they like to do, where they work, what are their preferences, their likes and dislikes, their favorite meal, their family, what it's like in their town, on and on. You saw some sexy or handsome photo of the girl or guy, as the case may be, that they sent you as part of their profile. What that is going to do, if you're looking for love, you're going to generate a false, all made up persona in your brain because you're not hanging around this person in real time. You are going to create a fantasy person, and that's who you're going to fall in love with. Not a real person, a fantasy person that doesn't most likely really exist. I'm not saying in all cases. I'm saying in the cases I'm describing here. And since all human beings have this tendency with someone who's remote that they've never met, creating the fantasy persona, you need to be aware the person that you just fell in love with probably doesn't exist, not in the way that you think. All right? Now, if it is a real person, you're going to have to meet them to really know what they're like. And you're going to have to spend a substantial amount of time with them to see what they're like in various circumstances, under stress, in normal day-to-day life, and so forth. All right? But we'll talk about that later. I'll give you my own experience with Joanne as an example later in the video. All right. Giant red flag number 3. which will let you know it's definitely a scam. In this case, I'm going to talk about a guy being scammed, but the reverse could be true also. All right? Let's say you put a profile up on Match.com or Plenty of Fish or something like that, right? And you get contacted by a girl from Latin America or Eastern Europe or Russia or Ukraine, okay? And she's got this beautiful picture and this attractive profile. You know, she's 29 years old, single, divorced, no children. I love the outdoors. I love this. I love that. I was so attracted to your profile and your photo, and your interests and mine are so similar. Maybe we could have a connection, okay? That 100% of the time is a scammer, okay? And I'll tell you why. If she's putting a profile like that up on a dating website, she's interested in a relationship with someone in the US, she puts up her own profile, she will get literally thousands of responses from guys. Thousands. She's not gonna reach out to some guy from some place in the USA. Very unlikely. Okay, so just be aware. Secondly, it's almost never her that's actually talking to you. That first message, what they call letters, if they're from Eastern Europe, for example, was written by a translator. It might be based on a real person's profile. She gave the website a whole bunch of profile information. But if that profile's coming to you, or that letter's coming from that place, it's coming through a translator. In any correspondence you send, the translator sees first. I'm going to back all of this up, by the way, with links down below. So if you're interested in follow-up on any of this, you can go down to the links and look at videos that describe in detail how all of this scamming works. All right. Fourth giant red flag that will let you know it's definitely a scammer, not someone really interested in you. They suggest meeting you in person, but they don't want to come to you. Or if you work on the correspondence over weeks or months, they do decide to come to you, but at the last minute they say they need money for an airline ticket or a special visa fee that's like $400, or they don't have the right accessories, they need this, that, and the other thing. Okay, definitely a scam. In some cases, what they'll do is they'll say, oh, I have the money for the travel. Everything's fine. I've bought my ticket. I have my visa. I have my passport. And then you get a call the day of their travel, supposed travel. You get a call from them, supposedly from the airport, right? And the call says, oh, I have to pay this special fee. It's a bureaucracy we have here. I need $1,400 in order to clear my visa to come to you. I'm so upset because I don't know what to do. I've got my tickets and I've got my, they don't have any ticket. Scam, okay? Scam. Here's a long word that describes what they're doing to you. A long word. Scam. Run as fast as you can. That's not a real person. interested in a real relationship. All right. Another variation on this theme is they'll suggest meeting you in an alternate country because theirs is too dangerous or too hard to get entry to or something. Like a Russian girl may say, let's meet let's meet down in one of the Western European nations like Spain or Italy because it's too hard to meet up in my country and for you to get in and out, and it's dangerous there. Okay? Scam. Okay? Do I need to say it? Do I need to say scammer? You don't want to fall for that ploy. Have any of you watched? Now, I know of many dozens of cases of this, just that I've seen and read about. But if you didn't do research like I've done, if you happen to watch the show 90 Day Fiancé this last season, which I think is about the only reality show other than Cops that has any reality to it. No, I don't watch reality TV, okay? It's all phony and scripted, and, stuff like The Bachelor will lower your IQ instantly by 50 points, but if you watch it, but it's kind of funny as a comedy to watch a little bit of it. I'm not putting anyone down who watches, I'm just saying, everybody has their own taste in entertainment. I'm just saying that 90 Day Fiancé was actual couples from two different countries trying to get together. A U.S. citizen, some men, some women, meeting up with somebody from, who knows where, Latin American countries, Middle Eastern countries, South Africa, a wide variety of places. But this one poor guy fit the exact profile of what I'm talking about. Finding love with in this case, was a Russian girl who just scammed him right and left, and she was willing to video chat with him and all of that. She was a little bit more sophisticated than some of them. A lot of them want to do the real quick scam, lead a guy along for a few months with emails before they start trying to get money out of him. But this one, she went all the way into video chat mode. 6 months, 9 months, she had him sending her money for airline tickets for them to meet in some Western European country. So of course he sent the money, never saw it, her or the money. Sent her more money. She said she needed luggage and a proper wardrobe. Sent more money. They made a second plan to meet, this time in Mexico, Cancun. Okay? Sent her. This time he at least had the wisdom to buy the ticket himself, right? She was a no-show, of course. And there's always an excuse. Oh, my mother was dying. My boss wouldn't let me off work. She had a whole list, they locked down all the airports because of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. So he would call the airport and they would say, no, everything's fine. On and on and on. This poor sap was so dense. He wanted to be delusional. It's what you call, what is the word for being intentionally delusional? I'm forgetting now. Willful ignorance. is the term, because they want so bad for it to be real, right? And that it's not a scammer, but this is the whole pitch, right? So, meeting in an alternate location or last minute asking for help to come to you. Definitely not someone looking for genuine long-term marriage or whatever. Last but not least, giant red flag. This is the most important one of all, because I want to prevent you from getting scammed. And if you're looking for love, I don't want you to get your heart broken by someone who's looking to rob you blind while giving you all kinds of affectionate, flowery prose about how they like you and have feelings for you. I think there's nothing quite worse than that, other than, violent murder or something, child abuse. Anyway, here are some of the red flags. If you meet someone online and they either ask you for money or hint that they're having financial difficulty with some issue, hoping that you'll offer up money, run, don't walk to the nearest exit from that scam, because you are dealing with someone who is a scammer. If they even hint, and here are some of the many 500 things they'll come up with. Their mom or their brother or their child are sick and they desperately need to help them to get medicine or medical attention, okay? Scam, all right? They need money for English lessons, all right? English lessons are easily found for free online, and they all know that. They need money for a translator, okay? So they can chat with you, all right? They have an old or broken phone or computer. Told you this one already, okay? They already have robust access to the internet. If they say, oh, I wish we could video chat, if only I could get a decent smartphone, okay? They have one already. Any money you send is going in their pocket. Even if they then start video chatting you, it's with the phone they already had or the computer they already had. They're not going down to the local country post office or internet cafe to send you the 3 times a week message letter, as they will call it, all right? Oh, their child or their cousin or their whatever child needs money for a backpack or school clothes. They don't know what they're going to do, but they've just got to help. Scam, okay? It's customary in their country for a new relationship person to send gifts, to give them gifts, but since you're so far away from each other, maybe you could just PayPal something and tell them what to buy, right? Scam. Do I have to say it? All right. I hope I don't have to explain that to you. They want to meet you, but they need money for travel. Yeah, we talked about this. They need money for a passport or a visa or a special fee or some documents or on and on and on. You get the idea. Oh, suddenly they need some money for rent or they're going to become homeless. Oh no. All right. What do I need to do? I have to explain this? Or do you understand that you're being scammed? All right. Oh, they need money for the bus pass or the train pass or to fix their broken down vehicle because they're going to lose their job otherwise. Okay? I don't have to show you the sign again. You know it's a scam. They have a terrible toothache. Whatever will I do? I need root canal surgery, and I have no money, and I'm in terrible pain. Scam. Okay. Their niece or sister or father or grandparent died, and they've got to go to the funeral. They need to bring flowers. Okay? Yes. 4-letter word. All right. The list is endless, but you get the idea. If you get involved with someone online and they even remotely hint that they have some financial need that they don't know what they're going to do about, that's not someone real contacting you to have a long-term relationship that's serious. And by the way, most of these scammers aren't just talking to you. They're doing this scam to 40 other people at the same time, okay? With slight variations. The flowery letter they send to you using your name and referencing things that you told them and you like is a form letter that they just modify slightly. Or I shouldn't say they. It's usually a translator sitting in a cubicle somewhere who's responding, okay? The picture is often a false picture, not always. The ones with real pictures will graduate to video chat with you at some point. And if they're genuine, then you might get beyond that into an actual meeting if they're willing to come to your country on their own nickel. Anyway, I want you to know that the sob stories are a scam. The flowery language and so-called connection and affection they're showering you with is nothing but a red-hot knife being stabbed into your heart to get money from you, all right? They don't care about you. They're looking for a sugar daddy or sugar mama, and you're going to be badly hurt, and their words of affection are false. Now, I may sound terribly cynical going on and on like this. I just want you to be protected, because there is a such thing as making a connection with a real person. I know of many successful stories, for example, with UK or Australian or US meeting guys, meeting Filipinas or some Latin American women, and I know of some where the women here meet some guys from overseas. Now, in many cases, they want to come to the U.S. for a better life, a green card, economic opportunity, and if they can meet someone they're compatible with along the way, so much the better. Just be aware that's usually the foundational motive. And so you have to know that going in, right? We'll talk a little bit more about that. But you can find love successfully if you're very, very careful and you're aware of all of the potential scams and pitfalls and costs. Anyway, remember you may be catfished as well. Person sending you profile pictures could very easily be sending pictures of someone else that they pulled off of a Facebook profile or anywhere. That's quite frequent. I suggest that you try first, if you're looking for love, before spending thousands of dollars on travel and all that kind of thing. There's so many ways to meet people in your own country. There's church groups and interest groups and social groups, and the list is endless. There's legitimate dating sites with legitimate profiles of people in your area. So why get the idea that there's some magic in meeting someone, from a foreign country? Sometimes you're very attracted to the differences that are involved. I know for me, I love foreign accents and languages, so that's attractive to me. I'm interested in foreign cultures and countries, so that's attractive to me. So there are all these things that, you think, well, American women have become so, I don't know, sophisticated and cynical, and they're so hard to, they don't open up, they're not family values anymore, materialistic. Well, what do you think it's like in other countries? In the Ukraine and Russia, for example, it's very status conscious, materialistic. So, yes, there's women there that, want to have a good life and a family. There's good women there. I'm not painting everyone with a broad brush. I'm giving you the red flags to look for. All right. Now, suppose none of that I talked about applies, okay? And you find the genuine love of your life, your soulmate, all right? And you want to be together, say, in the U.S. I said this would be a long video, didn't I? I want you to be aware that you need to be prepared for a year or two or more of bureaucratic red tape and meetings and issues and medical appointments and government stuff, bureaucracy stuff, and an immigration attorney, and all kinds of documentation requirements, and that's going to cost you anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 altogether by the time you get done with the process of trying to bring someone to the U.S., for example, and get their citizenship in place, which takes about 7 or 8 years altogether. There's a couple ways to do it. You can marry someone in a foreign country and go through all the hoops there, and then get a visa, spousal visa, to bring them here. Excuse me, what was that? By the way, speaking of spouses and online romances, my long-distance romance with Joanne must have turned out well, because today she bought me these nice C's candies because she knows it's my favorite chocolate. Now, since I don't want to feed any bad cells in my body that are mutating, or diabetes, which I've been cured of, by the way, it's gone. I'm not kidding, it's gone. I will ration these out and just eat like one a day and burn off the sugar immediately as soon as I have one by exercising. That way I don't put myself at risk. I'm getting a little dry mouth, so this is a cinnamon kind of blocky lollipop. Look, I can be a blockhead, right? Say blockhead. Michael Soothing, you're a blockhead. I've been called worse in my life. Put that down there for the moment. Have a sip of water. where were we? We were on the immigration process for the love of your life. Another way you can do it, if you do it where you marry overseas, you're going to have to get involved with U.S. immigration and with the U.S. consulate in the foreign country, and of course with their government bureaucracy to follow all the rules of getting married there and having your visa there. There will be all the travel, and it's like a 1 to 2 year process, okay? As long as it's not a country that's on the do not admit easily list, like Saudi Arabia or Syria, something like that. Now, if it's a Western European country or a Latin American country, 1 or 2 years, many thousands of dollars. The other way it can be done is with what's called a K-1 fiancé visa. There you apply to bring someone here, and as a fiancé, and you have 90 days to get married, basically, or to decide to get married. I think they have, that's why the TV show was called 90 Day Fiancé. In that case, the time frame is a bit quicker, but it can be quite expensive also. And be aware, you have to produce all the documentation and records, both for your own life and for that person's life. You have to produce proof that you make at least $22,000 or more per year on a tax returns. You can't just claim it, you gotta prove it. You can't sponsor a fiancé and bring them here unless you have some kind of full-time income that's at least that level, preferably more. You have to produce all your records, birth certificate, and all kinds of other things. But for the person you're bringing, you've got to have all their documentation, vaccination records, birth certificate, proof of prior marriages and divorces, on and on. The list is endless. And you have to show what they had for dinner 3 years ago when they went to a restaurant in their country, okay? All of that. You will go through multiple interviews, the two of you, with the immigration services in the U.S. at some big city. You can't just go any place. It'll be on the West Coast, it would be like Los Angeles or Seattle or San Francisco. On the East Coast, New York, Washington, D.C. You have to go to the big city to get your interviews and things done, application process. And you'll need an attorney to help guide you through the whole process. You have to prove it's a legitimate relationship or marriage. When you go to apply for a green card, you have to show the person moved to your residence, and you have to do this not only for the first green card, which is temporary, 2-year one, but you have to do it all over again in 2 years for the permanent green card. You have to have records of utility bills with both your names on it. You have to have records that all kinds of things showing they live with you. They grill you, they ask you questions. What's your partner's favorite food? Show us your emails when you are corresponding. Show us, that you gave each other a Christmas card this year. It goes on and on like that. they put you through interviews. All right. They have to have medical checkups here, and you have to go to specific places to get them, usually far from your home. In our case, we had to go over to Eugene and to Roseburg for those medical evaluations. I mean, it's really a long and difficult, and you have to pay for that. It's several $100s for that part of it, up to, we paid almost $1,000 just for that part. But, like I said, figure on, 15,000, 20,000 in cost. Now, that doesn't count that once you bring that person here, you're fully responsible. They can't get a job themselves until they have a work permit, which takes the better part of a year at least. You need to insure them for health insurance and things, which is several $100s a month. I could go on and on down the list, but you get the idea. Be prepared. You need about, I'd say, 30 to 40,000 bucks if you to throw away if you want to start an international romance leading to marriage here, and that's counting the cost of trips back and forth once or twice to really spend time with each other. Okay? Now, I hope I've given you enough to understand how to avoid the scams. I want to read you just one little thing. Do you remember this Catch Me If You Can movie with Leonardo DiCaprio? There he is. Here's an article called Frank Abagnale was the name of the guy who pulled off all kinds of fantastic scams. He even pretended to be an airline pilot and would fly on jets as, to get from one place to another. He was cashing phony checks, payroll checks from American Airlines or something as a pilot. He was just generating these at home. Anyway, here's Frank today. He's much older, of course. He wrote this article, and he's talking about all the different scams to avoid. I'll give you one of them. A little bit about somebody's dating disaster, where he's talking about these online dating sites. And this is more of a domestic dating scenario, but it can apply to anyone in various ways. Melissa Trent's heart jumped when she saw a new message from a user called Love to Hike 1972. Does that mean he was born in 1972 or he was hiking in 1972? You be the judge. Anyway, she saw his username and a message from him on the dating website Plenty of Fish. I need to go to that website and do some fishing, but I don't think they have salmon and trout and bass there, so I'll skip it. Thursday, she saw it, April 2017. A 40-something single mom, Melissa had experienced bad luck finding anyone nice who shared her love of the outdoors, so she was eager to check this person out. I will talk about Joanne and I at the end, by the way, and our romance. Just a little aside. She was not disappointed. His account featured photos showing a handsome, fit, smiling guy in hiking clothes engaged in outdoor activities. His interests including hiking, biking, skiing, craft beer, scamming, Oh, I didn't say that in his profile. All the things that Melissa liked. After exchanging a few messages, she gave him her cell number. He reached out that evening. His name was Jeff Cantwell. New in town, he had just gotten to Colorado Springs from Alaska. A few days later, Melissa agreed to meet Jeff. He looked just like his photographs. So far, so good, right? Gave her a feeling of security. He regaled her with stories about his adventures. There was no argument when they went to eat. Jeff paid. A few days later, he asked what her two daughters liked to eat. Then he came over to her house to make spaghetti and meatballs. He wasn't asking for money. He was paying for a nice dinner, making them food at home. The two were in constant contact. Jeff told Melissa, red flag alert. Jeff told Melissa he had lost his parents in a car accident and had also claimed the life of his fiancée and their baby. He had been in Afghanistan, red flag alert, where he was injured. Many of the guys scammers claim they're overseas on some mission or other with the services, okay? Armed service. We really liked each other, she says, or so it seemed. But soon Jeff's behavior started to raise red flags. Red cube flags. His behavior. Jeff asked to borrow just a little cash. A little cash, right? A little tiny bit of cash. He was having issues with his Veterans Affairs benefit checks. Blah, blah, blah. He gives the reason why. So he asked if she could just front him $100 through the weekend. They were planning to go on a little trip to a casino. They decided to go to the casino, and Jeff asked if she could instead withdraw $200 from her account, $100 to get through the weekend, and $100 more for them to gamble with at the casino. She consented, and they stretched the gambling money for 10 hours of fun before it was gone. What were they playing, by the way? Because $100 does not go for 10 hours in most casinos. That would vanish in about 5 to 10 minutes in most casinos. So at least they were pretty good at their gambling, let's say. I don't gamble. I play poker. It's not gambling. Anyway, during their time at the casino, she overheard Jeff talking to another customer when he thought he was out of earshot, talking to another customer about living in Alaska, and heard him say, my mom is an Inuit, in the present tense, but he had told Melissa his parents were deceased. The following Monday, Jeff said he was still having trouble with his account, needed to drive to a branch of his bank an hour away. Despite misgivings, she agreed to let him take her new Audi. My, she's not too smart, is she? And she reluctantly let him borrow a credit card for gas. When hours passed with no word from Jeff, Melissa texted him. He said that by the time he got to the bank, it was closed. He would stay overnight, sleeping in her car in the bank parking lot. Chill out, he texted. Chill out. He had never spoken to her like that before. Melissa was finally forced to face the likelihood something was very wrong in their new relationship. When Jeff refused to prove he was really at the bank, she finally wised up and decided to call the county sheriff's office. Police soon informed Melissa that Jeff Cantwell was actually Jeffrey Dean Caldwell, a 44-year-old criminal who had been incarcerated in several states for felonies ranging from burglary to bad check writing. Caldwell often trolled internet dating sites and trailheads where he was going to hike looking for targets. He had been paroled in September 2016 after serving time for identity theft in Colorado. But after he connected with Melissa, he had stopped checking in with his parole officer. Eventually, Caldwell was arrested in South Dakota, with her car, no doubt. By then, he had maxed out her credit card, of course, and cleaned out her bank account. Of course, Melissa got her Audi back, but it was a mess. Trashed her car. Caldwell had gone on a craft beer tour and decorated the car's exterior with stickers from all the breweries he visited at her expense. The lessons. Here's the lessons. Since the first internet dating sites appeared in 1993, online dating has soared, and so have romance scams. In Melissa's case, the two people actually met, which is unusual. More commonly, the fraud is done entirely online by an imposter, often working many romance scams at once, often from a foreign country. Many of these scams come out of Africa or Eastern Europe, Russia, Ukraine, etc. These swindles target blah, 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 To avoid being the victim of a romance scam, go outside the dating site to research the person. For example, use the website TinEye or Google Images to search by image and see if that person's photo shows up in other places under a different name. Be skeptical of stories designed to elicit sympathy, like Jeff's story about his family dying. Beware of all requests for money or even hints that the person you're talking to needs something for some emergency. Never provide your last name, your phone number, your address, or your place of work until you've gotten to know someone very well over a long period of time. By the way, when it comes to the foreign dating sites, one of the big scams, you'll think you have a legitimate person on the other end because they never ask for money or hint about money. Instead, it's a site where you get letters in your inbox, supposedly from someone interested in you, but you have to pay the site to open those letters. All right, the so-called girl on the other end is getting a percentage of that, and those letters are written in the thousands. I sent to thousands of people one letter, supposedly from Olga or whoever the name is, and some percentage of guys usually are willing to pay the $10 to open those letters, and she gets a percentage of that. Think of how much is involved. Let's say they send out letters to 10,000 guys, right? And 5% open it and pay the $10. Okay? Now you've got 50 guys that opened a letter. That's $5,000. She gets 20%. That's $1,000. Do that over and over many times per week, and you see how profitable it can be, even if she's not asking you directly or indirectly for money for some supposed emergency in her life, right? So that's it for all the warnings. I think by now you get the idea, but if you don't, you can go down to the links at the bottom and watch some more videos from others who are not doing ASMR. Now I promised you I would talk about how Joanne and I met, why it's a successful relationship, and how we knew we weren't scammers. Number one, we did not meet on a dating site. Neither one of us ever used a dating site. The way we met, as some of you know, is we're both making ASMR videos. We saw each other's videos and started emailing each other and making comments on each other's videos. So, since both of us are exhibiting our genuine personality on our videos, it was fairly easy to get at least a sense of the other person before we even started writing each other. Okay, so there's that. And the reason I tell you this is that that's a much better, if you can observe someone for some length of time, usually live, social gatherings and such, or through some other means, that's a lot better than a dating site or an app, okay? Maybe they have a Facebook page, for example, and you can scroll through it to see what they're really doing, what their interests are. Secondly, yeah, see, I liked her voice and her attitude and her personality, and she liked mine. So I sent her an email, and before you know it, we were texting. We were commenting on each other's videos. We were chatting. We were eventually FaceTiming, and we were sending each other videos that were private video, not YouTube, to talk about details of our life that we didn't want to put out into the general public necessarily. Specific romantic messages and things along that line, if you know what I mean. Okay, so anyway, and by the way, in Joanne's case, she has this way of doing long interrogations that can go on for, I don't know, an hour or two, and she'll grill you. She's worse than the FBI. Sometime we'll talk about it together and do a collab. So she knew all about me before we got together. Anyway, we did this online thing for quite a long time, probably almost a year before we finally met. And the way we met was, I first went to see her in Denmark, where she was living at the time, and then she came to visit me in the USA. Not too long after that, I went to visit her again in Denmark a few months later, and then eventually she came here and we got married. All right, so we had lots of time. We got to see each other under various circumstances, and we knew each other quite well by the time we decided to get married. So that's a different process than just going to a dating site where someone is giving you a projected image of themselves that you can't really test or see or interact with in a proper way. Like in Joanne's case, because she really likes to communicate, I mean, we went through phone calls and video calls that would go on for 3 or 4 hours. I'm not kidding you. Since I hate being on the phone, this was difficult for me, but I still did it anyway. And so I think we had probably 1,000 hours of interaction remotely. And I'll see if I'll do a quick calculation. And probably when visiting each other, let's see, 10 days, 50, okay, several hundred hours live interaction, face to face, visiting each other in one country or the other, before we finally got serious, decided to marry. So there you have it. If you can find an alternate way, or at least incorporate some of that understanding into how to get an online legitimate relationship, I think you'll be ahead of the game and less likely to be scammed. But I'd like to encourage everyone, try to find somebody closer to home if you can. If you're just really attracted to somebody from a certain foreign country, then try not to look for the profiles that are obviously scam profiles. Some girl in a bikini shot who's 25 in some foreign country is getting 10,000 replies to her profile, okay? She's not seeking you out. She's weeding through. So if she's suddenly contacting you out of the blue or quickly responding to you after one message, look for any of those red flag issues I talked about. I'm not saying it's never true. I'm just saying make sure the red flags are not there. Don't let those be there if you're going to proceed, okay? I think that's all I can say by way of caution. But if anybody is looking for romance online, I certainly wish you well, and I hope you will find it. It is possible. I found it. Others have. Many have. But I would stick with the big, legitimate sites that have verified profiles like Match or Plenty of Fish, and then I would avoid all the red flags I described. All right? I think that's it for this video. I'm sure it's put you to sleep by now. I will have maybe 1/2 of one chocolate tonight for my dessert. And so Joanne, oh, and by the way, yes, we fell in love online, but we didn't create a idealized portrait of each other. We tested all each other's weaknesses and faults at great length remotely before we proceeded forward through lots of interrogation. So both in video chat and emails and talking about everything under the sun, spiritual issues, you name it, political things, worldview, family, what would be a source of conflicts, what were problems in the past, etc., etc. Doesn't that look yummy? Okay, usually guys buy chocolates for girls, but yeah, in Joanna's case, I don't know why she's attracted to a guy like me, but she says that she likes guys that have some intellect and personality. She's not into just the fancy car or the big salary and the big money, or the gregarious, outgoing personality or the muscle guy or whatever. She's not shallow in that way. She's got a lot of depth, and I think the reverse is true also. I was looking for someone with a lot of spiritual depth, which she has, a lot of personality depth, and solid values, which she has. And so we're compatible on many, many levels, but we also have a great affection for each other. The more we were around each other, we also appreciate each other's flaws. If you really love someone, you'll be amused by their flaws, at least some of the time. Not always, of course. Sometimes their flaws will irritate the hell out of you, but other times you'll sit back and smile, okay? I'm going to do a whole video on Joanne's OCD, with her permission, of course. And I'll do that at some future date. And of course, she'll do videos gossiping about me as well. Alright, so there you have it. Most of you who've seen our collabs together can see that we have feelings for each other and a really great relationship. Boy, I sure have rambled on a long time. 1 hour and 12 minutes. I don't know if this is my longest ASMR or not, but it's good and long. So I will say goodbye for now. I will remind you one last time, please find love in a legitimate way, but do not be scammed. Do not be a scammer, and do not fall for anything that's a scam, foreign or domestic. All right, take care, everyone. Don't ASMR and drive. Bye-bye.